Good.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Dayton Board of Selectmen regular meeting agenda. Wednesday, today, May 10th, 2023. It's about 6:32. It's a hybrid meeting via Zoom and in person at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Avenue. You can join the Zoom meeting with the meeting ID number 815-6080-6932 with the passcode of 750404. The phone number for calling in is 309-205-3325. Public input may be provided using the following methods. Contact our office at Board of Selectmen at Dayton-ma-gov to provide input prior to the meeting. Via Zoom, call in by phone. Again, the number is 309-205-3325. Or continue to play on Dayton Channel 9 and on YouTube at www.youtube.com, Town of Dayton. This meeting is being recorded. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. We're going to call the meeting to order.
Good evening. Leonard Ho.
And Peter Karen is here. May all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And just after the Pledge of Allegiance, if you can all stay standing, we have a few neighbors who have passed. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since our last meeting, 4 members of the Dayton community have passed. John C. Tavares, age 74 of Dayton, passed away on Saturday, April 29th. Mr. Tavares is the beloved husband of Susan Viola Tavares. He was a member of the United States Navy and a veteran of the Vietnam War, and he was a truck driver for Pepsi for over 40 years. Antone Mendes, 97 of Dayton, passed away on April 22nd at his residence, surrounded by his loving family. He was the loving husband of Lorraine K. Rose Mendes. Antone was a veteran of foreign wars and served in the Navy during World War II. He worked for Paragon Gear as a machinist and at Morton Hospital. Orem Ham, age 73, passed away peacefully at home surrounded by his family on Sunday, April 30th. He was the beloved husband of Sok Thai T. Prior to his retirement, Lorem worked as a machine operator for Automatic Machine Products. And Cynthia A. Weaver Rothwell, age 72 of Dayton. Cynthia passed away peacefully on Tuesday, May 2nd, surrounded by her family. She was the beloved wife of Russell Rothwell for 48 years. She dedicated her entire life to raising her family. Our thoughts and condolences go out to the families of these fellow Dayton residents who have passed.
Thank you. The scheduled appointments. Mr. Rooney, as promised, you're up. You're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
I appreciate Town Administrator Mullins' assistance with my PowerPoint presentation tonight. I'd like to thank you for having me here. Congratulations to you on your new appointment, and congratulations to the chief for finding a razor. And it's with great pleasure that I come to share the news with the members of the town that we have submitted a statement of interest, which I'll refer to as an SOI, to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, which I'll refer to as the MSBA, for a potential upgrade, whether it be an addition or a renovation or new construction to Dayton Elementary School. So again, the Mass School Building Authority is a very, there we go. It's a very valuable organization as far as the state is concerned, because many communities are experiencing buildings that are declining, that are no longer up to ADA code. They're no longer up to, the status of 21st century skills. And so we're cautiously optimistic about our submission. And I think the most important thing is that I wanted to be here tonight to hopefully clear up some confusion, give people a sense of where we are now, what this is, and really what this isn't. So I took this directly from the MSBA website, and it explains how that it is a grant program that they work with cities and towns to be able to try to improve the educational experience for students and staff. Submitting a statement of interest is simply the first step, and I think that's something that's extremely important. We had a school committee meeting roughly a month or so ago. Mrs. Kuchar and I were talking about it just a few minutes ago, that we had been talking regularly about the submission to the MSBA, and some people automatically thought that submitting meant that we were going to be breaking ground on a new building, and we are far, far away from that at this point. So as far as what it is and what it isn't, again, I want to be clear that this is not the start of a building project. It is simply just an intent to apply if we are chosen to go into the next step. I also want to be clear that the MSBA only allows you to submit for one building. However, when I created the statement of interest, I made sure to mention the deficiencies that carry over to Dayton Middle School. Hopefully, if we get invited into the feasibility study stage, we will be able to clearly show how not only Dayton Elementary is in dire need of an addition, a renovation, or a reconstruction, but that Dayton Middle or aspects of that Dayton Middle campus should be included as well. I think it's also important to note that I had a meeting with State Representative Pat Haddad. I wanted to talk with her about the statement of interest, and I shared that with her in hopes that she can advocate for us at the state level. Our next slide here is just a flow chart for the MSBA core process overview, and we literally are at the top left corner with that little light blue box, and then it has an arrow over to the side of a group of people. We are only in the queue. That's the only thing that we have been able to state unequivocally at this point. Now, if we get invited into the feasibility study stage, we will need to assemble a school building committee. Now, prior to my tenure, the district had an advisory committee to the superintendent for buildings and grounds. I want to get that group back together sooner rather than later. But the school building committee is, the members of the school building committee are prescribed by the MSBA. And so if we get to that point, then I'll collaborate with you in terms of what representation that we would have. I can tell you from personal experience, when I worked in Attleboro, it was really important that we had school committee members, that we had city council members, so for you it would be selectmen members. We had community members that were knowledgeable about trades, and then also obviously representatives from the district, and the mayor was the chair of the school building committee. So if we get to that point, then we will we'll work with you to assemble an SBC. Another important community piece of it is that if, again, we get to this point, we will be able to hold what are called visioning sessions. So visioning sessions are for us to get together, educators, community members, stakeholders of all sorts, to be able to really peel away at what we want for a new building. And again, to be clear, we're nowhere close at this point, but I think it is really important for folks to understand that there is a strong community connection to this process. When we did it in Attleboro, we went to the old Texas Instruments, now Sensata. We had a huge ballroom that they provided to us free of charge, and we met for 3 days, 3 full days, and we probably had about 30 people that were on that team. And like I said, it included educators, school committee members, community members, students, administrators, and we worked with a consultant who helped us, hash out ideas about what we felt would be the best iteration of a new Attleboro High School. So the MSBA, when you submit to the MSBA, you only have to be able to check off one box of their priorities. And we were able to successfully check off 3 boxes. Now, again, one would think that if you check off, more boxes, you have a better chance of, getting invited into it. I don't necessarily feel that's the case. I think that they're basically just trying to get a true sense of what it is that you're looking for. So priority 2, the elimination of overcrowding. Priority 4, again, pertains to overcrowding. And then priority 7 is, replacement of existing buildings that have a full range of deficiencies. So in terms of overcrowding, these are some population projections in terms of the enrollment at Dighton Elementary. This comes from a study from NESDEC, which is the New England School Development Education Council. And if you look at the second column and the fourth column, that's the true story. The projected enrollment, and this goes, it includes data back to the 18-19 school year. We are already above what the MSBA feels is an appropriate capacity for a building of our size. If you project that all the way out to 28, 29, there would be 100 more students, almost 100 more students in that building than what the MSBA would consider appropriate for capacity. And that's not counting the modulars that you all collaborated with the district on several years ago. That fourth column there is even more glaring. I mean, the last column there is even more glaring because the capacity without modulars would only be 400. So in terms of overcrowding, there's absolutely no doubt that we qualify for that. Next slide, please. So we also have several deficiencies, and I'll just quickly outline some of them. I want to thank Detective Richards, who was able to secure some of this footage for me via a drone. And it really memorializes the issues that we have with the what some people refer to as the road to nowhere, coming in from the side street. So we have cars that are queued up at the elementary school for pickup, and we have buses that are coming in that are crossing where those cars are. Now, in full transparency, this is not active drop-off time yet, but if there was a bus that was running late, and we do have some situations where buses are running late, especially with some of the middle school kids, because the middle school route comes before the elementary route. If they have to make sure that the kid gets into the house before they drive away, sometimes they're off schedule just a little bit. And so in theory, you could have situations where you've got buses and even cars that are trying to go towards the front of the building, and crossing with cars that are queued up for carpool. Even in this picture itself, you have cars that are parked in the traffic lane. And so while we submitted for Dighton Elementary, this is an issue for Dighton Middle as well. And so, I'm hopeful that if we get invited into feasibility study, that during the feasibility study phase, we'll be able to make a strong case for the fact that we need really just a whole new layout for that campus. Next. Here's just another picture. Again, this is not active drop-off time, but we have staff members that are getting ready to come out of the building to do parking lot duty, and we've got cars that are coming in from Center Street. Is that correct? Okay, so we got cars coming in from Center Street, and some of them are, turning underneath the solar panels for Dighton Middle. We've got others that are trying to drive to the back of Dighton Elementary. Again, it's just not a safe situation. I also know, and this is really from the community standpoint, I also know that there's been a lot of concern about the backups on 138 and the backups on Center Street based on events and drop-off and pickup at Dighton Elementary and Dighton Middle. And I am very confident that if we get into this phase and we start having visioning sessions, we will make it abundantly clear to the architects that we have to have a plan that alleviates that because we want to be the best neighbors that we can possibly be. And we have residents and we have folks that work in the town that, they don't have children in the schools, but we are trying to be the best neighbors that we can to them. So if we can do anything to alleviate congestion on 138 and Center Street, that'll be a part of the design as well. Next. I took a few photos of either some areas that were unsafe or a redeployment of traditional spaces. So we've got hardwood floors that are peeled up, they're buckling. We do what we can to, maybe cover them with a rug or something like that. I'm also concerned about, if you look at the photo on the top right, that's the auditorium, or that's the cafetorium stage, if you will. And we've had to partition it off to use it not only for storage, but that's become a teacher's lounge. And our teachers work far too hard to have to, have such Spartan conditions during their free time. And then the bottom right picture is the other portion of the cafetorium stage where we are using it for storage. The other aspect of this that's concerning to me is that you now have a dual purpose facility, a cafeteria and an auditorium that is not able to be used as a true auditorium. So kids cannot perform on that stage because it's redeployed for other purposes. Next. We also just, we have dated facilities. We have portions of the building that are in need of repair. Our bathrooms still have the traditional handles on them. Post-pandemic, we would like to be able to have, hands-free sinks. Some of the toilets, even though our facilities department works very hard to keep everything going, they sometimes they struggle with the outdated plumbing. I have a picture there of where, just through time, some of the walls have started to kind of separate a little bit. We're trying to hold them together with caulk. It's definitely time. The current building has served us really well, but I'm very hopeful that the MSBA will come to the table for us. And probably, even though I left this for last, this probably should be first. Safety and security upgrades. We have no security cameras in the middle school or the elementary school. That to me is unfathomable. It's a situation that I inherited, and I think it's important that everybody knows that we have one grant submitted for $150,000 for safety and security upgrades, but we also are submitting what's called the COPS grant, and I'm not sure exactly what the acronym stands for, but it is a nationwide multi-million-dollar safety and security grant. So we are actively pursuing safety upgrades. We're not waiting for a new building to be able to put in safety and security upgrades, but we need updated door access controls, and we need security cameras. Most of you are familiar with the flooding that we had at Dighton Middle School back in January. I firmly believe that was vandalism, but we have no way of proving it because we have no cameras. So just, in closing, I wanted to be here tonight to be able to kind of set the table for the selectmen, set the table for the community about, how excited I am about the possibility of this. I don't want to get too excited because there are a lot of schools out there that are in need of a lot of help. But once December rolls around, which again, that's the other thing, that the timeline is not conducive to someone who's impatient like I am. We won't find out anything until December. But, if for some reason December doesn't go in our favor, we'll submit again the following April, and we'll keep working on it until such time as we have a compelling enough case for them to work with us.
Great, thank you. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
I'll start with the last thing first. $150K for safety and security, is that just for the elementary school?
No, that's for the district.
Okay, so by no means will that touch much
No.
in the way of a freestanding building?
Correct.
Okay. Yep. In the competition for these grants is...
Oh, Mr. Karen, if I may, the town of Rehoboth last night at their town meeting did approve a reappropriation of $125,000 that they had given us in FY23 for improvements to Beckwith. We did not need to make those improvements to Beckwith because we found a more cost-effective way. It was for dehumidification, and there was also an air handler that was broken. We were able to work internally to fix the air handler, and then we went with a much more cost-effective dehumidification system. And so I went to the selectmen in Rehoboth about a month ago and told them that we were grateful for the money, but to be fully transparent, we needed to turn it back. In that same meeting, I asked them if they would consider reappropriating it for safety and security. They were willing to put it on the warrant, and it passed unanimously last night. So if we get the $150,000 grant, we now have at least $125,000 that we can devote to the Rehoboth campus. So it does help from the proportionate standpoint. So I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, that's
but
okay.
I think
Thank
it's
you.
relevant.
So we also have the $100,000 for the Dighton campus. We have a warrant article as well for the same thing, so we can reciprocate that same thing here, so.
Again, that would be for the 3 schools? Or, no, that would be just our 2 schools?
Just the Dighton campus,
Right.
yes.
And again, the competition for this, how fierce is it? I mean, are we looking at December as a strong possibility, or,
You talking about for MSBA or for the grant?
no, MSBA?
For the MSBA, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
I think that, when you have a building that's built in the mid to late 50s, the only real changes to it took place in 1999. You're able to clearly demonstrate current overcrowding and projected overcrowding. I think we've got a good shot.
Yeah. The biggest complaint I get, not I, that I think the town gets is people don't like their children going to school in trailers. It's obviously it's overcrowding and it's needed and it was the cheap way out, but they feel that the town should be able to provide more than trailers for kids to go to school in.
Yep. Well, and, if we get to a point where, we are in the feasibility study and the state says that they're willing to, provide what is, in a sense, a 50% grant towards the project, that is one of the compelling things that we need the community to understand is that, whether you have children in the schools or not, somebody paid it forward for you at some point in time to build a school, whether you lived in Dighton at that time or not. Somebody paid it forward out of their tax dollars to have, an educational experience for you. Right now, our kids are getting great instruction, but they're getting the short end of the stick in terms of the real experience. Sure. So, things like traffic congestion on Center Street, 138, the modular units that, they're still satisfactory, but it's not optimal.
Why is there congestion on 138? Is it the buses coming out? Is it?
Yeah,
why is there a backlog on?
It's a little bit of the buses, but then, like, for instance, under my administration, we're really trying to do a lot more community outreach.
Yep.
And so we had a winter festival back in, I think it was January, at Dighton Middle School, and the turnout was tremendous. Unfortunately, I didn't give the chief a heads up that that number of cars was going to be coming, and there were people waiting at the light for quite a bit of time to turn into the
Traffic was an issue, and why isn't more being done now about traffic that you can control instead of waiting for a new campus layout? Police detail obviously comes with a cost.
Yes.
The stopping the parents from parking along the side of the building next to the gymnasium, or whatever. It would seem to me that you must have a plan that can make the people park under the solar. I guess. So first of all, I'm very pleased with the drop off and pick up procedures that both of the buildings have. Okay.
When you see those cars that are queued up there, they are there because that's the route.
That is
now they shouldn't be on. They shouldn't necessarily be on the crosswalk. Okay. But considering that school had not yet been dismissed in that situation, but the other thing is that there are only so many bodies that we have. Like our teachers are teaching until dismissal, and then at dismissal they come out and they do parking lot duty and they do the best they can. The principal and the assistant principal, again, they do what they can. But honestly, Mr. Karen, we need parents to queue up on the driveway. We need them to queue up underneath the solar panels so that we can get enough cars off of Center Street and 138.
Right. Okay. Do you prefer new? Is that what we're really going to shoot for?
Do I prefer
a new school, a new campus?
Absolutely, absolutely. Ad reno takes more time.
Yep.
And you have to you have to make compromises.
Right. What would you do with the students while the new school was being built?
Well, I know you don't like modulars, but
right.
That would certainly have to be. It'd have to be one of the solutions. I'm hoping that by the time we get into a construction phase that our enrollment at the high school will be up again. But if we absolutely had to, we can consider utilizing some of the space at the high school.
Sure. It'd be terrifying for kids.
Or it would be nice
Or it would
collaboration.
be, possibly.
Older kids and younger.
The elementary school needs to be replaced. The middle school, which is not as old, are you looking to replace that as well in the future, or is this just an elementary school issue?
It's really a campus issue.
Right.
But unfortunately, the MSBA is not going to allow you to submit for a campus. They're only going to let you submit for one building. And the middle school was significantly reconstructed in 1999 after the fire. I've had some conversations with some architects just to consult with them on making as compelling of a statement of interest as possible because they've been through it so many times. Some of them feel that the MSBA may look at this situation and they may say, you know what, best case scenario is to, tear down both schools and maybe build one building where there's an elementary wing and where there's a middle school
That was
wing.
my
I
next
believe,
question.
Mr. Mullen, didn't you say that that's in your hometown?
Yes, in my hometown, actually, we had on the same campus, we had a renovated high school with a tear down of the middle school. So in a new middle school connected to a renovated high school that was all funded part of the same project. So the MSBA does have a track record of doing that.
But if we get new construction as opposed to ad reno, then the kids can stay in the building until such time as we're ready to tear it down.
Would they consider, or just what you said, because I think it's either Mansfield or Norton has one building for their elementary and middle school, and we have that spot in between. Would they consider funding something like that?
I think it's conceivable, yes.
Okay. Mr. Hull, do you have any
Yes,
questions?
several. In 1993, the town of Dayton put together a master plan. I mentioned that, I don't know if you are aware of that or not, or if a copy of that still exists.
I'm not aware of it.
I was a member of that committee. And one of the things they talked about in that report was the prediction that in 20 years, we would be in the position that we were in. One of the things that they did talk about was the concern of growth of Dayton. And we are seeing incredible potential for growth based on the MBTA station. And when you make your presentation, SBAB, I think it'd be convincing that the impact that the state is going to have on southeastern Massachusetts, in particular this area, and at this time, we are not part of the MBTA impact zone, but there are discussions about including Dayton. That, in those discussions, Serpent is also a part of those discussions, of including Dayton. Dayton hasn't met their 40B requirements. We're looking at the potential just on the Tremont Chase Street area of 90 units of affordable housing coming. And traditionally, affordable housing means children, to the point statistically that comes down to about 2 children per household, which, if I do my math, is 180 children, which means significant thought must be given for projecting our future growth and what our needs are going to be.
Right. If we get to the point where we're invited into the feasibility study stage, the feasibility study will include a brand new, enrollment projection. So information like that will obviously be included and will be a very important part of it, because the last thing you want to do is get permission to build something new and you build it for 565 because it says on that chart that in 2030 we're going to have 565, and then, as you said, Mr. Hull, that we've got some new housing and new children, and then all of a sudden we're back to being cramped again. So it's, having been through it in Attleboro, it's very formulaic, it's very thorough, and we'll make sure that they understand those implications.
In regards to the high school in 8th grade,
In regards to the high school, what?
in regards to, it was mentioned this evening, the high school being used to help if our numbers don't increase because there is available space. Just for a point of reference, that 12, 13 years ago, the city of Taunton faced the same problem. And they chose to use the high school, and they still do to this day, the high school for their 8th grade. There were growing pains, but it is still working quite nicely today. A point of reference, an individual, and you could talk to, he lived right through it, is the Hanover High School principal, Matt Maddows.
Yeah, Matt and I are good friends.
Okay, so he'd be a great pointer, the good, the bad, and the ugly about it. Regarding the road to nowhere, you may or may not be aware that that is and was a lightning rod in a discussion in town vote nearly a year ago.
I remember being at school committee meetings when I was, I think at that point I had been offered a contract, and I remember that being a robust discussion.
And to be quite frank, one of the reasons why it failed from the members of the Board of Selectmen at the time was that the district did not do its due diligence. And I'd hate to see your project held up at a town meeting because the road to nowhere, as we call it, wasn't presented in such a way that the voters felt comfortable with it. Because we have a lot of concerns and a lot of needs, a lot more than this road. And some of the things that didn't happen, there was no SERPID input, there was no Department of Transportation input, and we never received a report from the DPD or from the school department on what measures they tried or were recommending before they came to the voters to ask them to build this road that some people were talking was close to $1 million. So I caution you about that. I'm not against it, but I think if you're going to sell it to the voters, the research has to be there and everything transparent so the voters can make a decision, especially on the issue that the school department has done their due diligence to try to improve it. In defense of yourself, you are talking 2 new administrators in those 2 buildings. You're also talking a superintendent who's only been there 9 months, who's rebuilding a school district. So I understand there's probably still more work that needs to be done in that regards. But to sell this project, I see this road as being very important sell. Or you may come after you do your due diligence that there are other alternatives. But that needs to be made clear to the voters, or I'm afraid they might reject this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm far from being smart enough to be an architect, but, I imagine that the concerns that we've already expressed about egress, emergency access, those types of things would all be taken into consideration, by the time any design would be rolled out to the community. But you bring up a great point, because it is going to, if we get to that point, and again, I have to continue to stress, we're not there yet, but if we get to that point, we're going to have to make a strong case. And as a public official, I have to be careful in terms of not trying to, sway a ballot question. But one of the things I was able to do in Attleboro with my superintendent was we were able to, as the kids like to say, spit facts. And we went and met with the Council on Aging. We met with various groups in town. We held open forums for questions and answers. And just to give you the Attleboro case in a nutshell, it was a 60-year-old building that had systems that were going to fail. When those systems failed, the repairs was going to be more than 10% of the appraised value, which means we had to bring the entire campus up to code for ADA and all those other things. And so just that project alone would have been $200 million. And the city would have been on the hook for every single penny of it because they did not pass the MSBA vote. We were able to show that with the MSBA support, we're able to get a $265 million brand new building that we only were on the hook for $132.5. So, there's going to be a lot of effort to get people to understand the importance of it.
I do have a couple more things. So you have reached out to Representative Haddad, is it?
Yes.
Good. She's a powerful advocate for schools. And I just see convincing SBAB of what's coming to southeastern Mass as a strong selling point. Mr. Mullen, correct me if I'm wrong, we potentially could get hit hard with development.
Yeah, that's something we need to really dig into.
Yes.
So,
Well, thank you.
based on everything coming, I think what's really important, though, just to echo that, is that like many other communities have already been to the MSBA once, twice, even some 3 times. So the fact that Dayton has never been, so the fact that the school district is, to my knowledge, the first, really holistic SOI that the school district is proposing. So like I really do think, to the superintendent's point, that it puts the school district, and it puts our town in a really good position. Other towns have already gone to the MSBA 2 and 3 times. And they've been awarded grant funding. So I mean, like, I firmly believe that. So especially based on the current conditions, that it is our time, and like I'm very excited about this.
I just have one last question. You didn't check box number 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school systems. What is the rationale for not checking that box?
Because in 1999, when there were repairs and improvements made to Dayton Middle, they don't meet the standard of that number 5.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Before we get to Mrs. Miller, those towns that you were mentioning going 2 or 3 times,
Yes.
did they get awarded each time?
Yes.
Okay, so it just wasn't, you gotta go first time and probably don't get it.
Yeah, like they have been towns just like Hanover, like for example, they've had, and I would imagine they were like a 50% community as well, based on the wealth factor and everything else. They've had at least 2 projects funded. Rockland has had at least 2 projects funded, and like with Dayton having 0 projects funded, I think we're in a good place, and we have a very compelling real need, so.
Okay. I think you mentioned this, but checking more boxes doesn't matter?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. Mrs. Mello, your turn.
I just had one question, in regards to, it seems like there's a lot of parents that are dropping off and picking up. Is there something that school is lacking that's making them need to do this? I mean, the bus, to me, is convenient. The child gets on the bus, they're gone. I don't have to sit in this line. I just didn't know if anything could be done to help these parents in why they are choosing this path.
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know whether it's, especially with the elementary kids, I'm not sure if it's a situation where they just, they want to hold on to as much of the connection to their child as possible and see them walk in the building and watch them walk out of the building. But that's something I certainly can talk with the administration about.
Okay, just as a parent, as a resident, when the road to nowhere went to town meeting, that was one of my thoughts. Why am I going to pay out this money for this road when these parents are bringing their children? But if I was presented with, hey, they're bringing them for X, Y, and Z reason, that would persuade me differently when I have that kind of data. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we were asked to take a vote tonight, and what are we actually voting on?
Voting to approve the Board of Selectmen's authorization of the SOI, just so it's like
Memorialized?
memorialized. That's a good word. I know the superintendent and the chief like it, so you need to memorialize it.
Anything I can't pronounce, they want to use. Have you seen the last name of the agent in charge from the FBI?
Yeah.
They can't have Smith as the last name. So is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the statement of interest through the SBAB of the Dayton-Rehoboth Regional School District for the Dayton campus.
Okay, all those in favor? Mr.
Aye.
Mr. Miller? And Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Just as a parting shot, I always appreciate the opportunity to be here. Rehoboth Town Meeting last night, there were 3 school-related issues. All 3 school-related issues passed unanimously. I think that, my team and our school committee have built a synergy over these last 9 months. I think it's becoming infectious. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, sir, you're up next.
Thank you, Chief. Tough act to follow.
Yes. Good evening.
Where'd I let it go? This is from Joseph I'd like to call him Smith, but Bonalata?
Bonavolanta.
Bonavolata, well, it's close. It was dated Friday, April 14th of 2023. It's to Chief Sean P. Cronin. And it's Chief Cronin, I am writing to you and the men and women who served in your department to extend my sincere gratitude for the partnership you exhibited yesterday. As you witnessed firsthand, yesterday's operation was extremely fluid, and we needed the assistance of your department to help maintain security in a volatile environment. You and your officers did everything we asked, and with the utmost professionalism and diligence. On behalf of the FBI division, thank you again for your partnership. It is greatly appreciated. Be safe, Joe. It's funny because who would have thought something so major would have happened to our little town? When you could pick anywhere in the country, it happened in little old Dayton.
In the world.
In the world, absolutely. And this is not the first time I heard what an outstanding job you and your team did. And I couldn't be more prouder.
too.
And neither can the citizens of this town, especially when they heard how much you and your department stepped up. And like I said, it's not the first time I heard this. So with sincere thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hull?
I know that it took a team to put together an outstanding effort to impress the FBI and to keep the town of Dayton safe. But every team has a manager. And when the manager does a good job, he gets commended. And when he doesn't, he gets taken to task. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion. The letter of commendation be placed in Chief Cronin's file for his actions in directing the Dayton Police Department in the orderly assistance of the FBI with the incident that happened.
Is that a motion, sir?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
aye.
Mr. Mullin? And Peter Karen is an aye.
Mr. Mullen, you could draw that up and,
Yeah, just a quick 2-sentence letter, right?
Let's not overdo it. Mrs. Mello, do you have any concerns or questions?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, kind of reiterate something that you said that really struck me, that I liked. You had mentioned something in regards to why Dayton, and then you said, well, why not Dayton? And why not? You guys were prepared, you took on the task, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll take this opportunity to really just recognize the entire department that, like you said, stepped up. The hardest thing for us is going into something without information or with little information. So we're constantly asking and wanting for more information. And that day, I could only give out what I was allowed to give out. So I was really impressed and proud of the way that they responded going into something literally knowing nothing and being fed as it could be fed. That's not easy to do in our profession because it's always, you're always thinking the worst. So they all need to be commended. So I appreciate
Sure,
what
absolutely.
you're doing. But it's all on them. If they didn't come through, then that double perimeter doesn't happen.
Right,
So they're to be commended as well.
we will. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have Maria Jones from SRPEDD. Hi, guys.
Thank you, Chief.
My colleague Philip Hugh as well.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to talk about this regional plan and how it can help your community. So we are updating the priority areas in our region, which include these PDAs and PPAs. So next slide. So why are we here today? We're a regional planning agency, but we want to make sure that we kind of have the permission and the partnership of each community we work with. We do not want to come in and say, hey, you have to do this plan. And we also just want to give a quick overview of what these priority areas are and what the process looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So what is a PDA? What is a PPA? A PDA is a priority development area. These are areas identified for additional growth. They meet a regional need for housing or economic development, and they often have good access to transportation or the potential for infrastructure. Priority protection areas, on the other hand, are areas that are important to protect. These have significant natural or cultural resources, so that includes habitats, water resources like aquifers, historic resources, and agriculture. So how do we determine where these PDAs and PPAs are? Well, we empower each of our communities with data. So we have kind of very basic, like human data, I call it, like zoning, land use, infrastructure, and also environmental data like habitats, wetlands, water resources, and conservation areas. So this isn't our first rodeo. We've done this quite a few times. In 2008, it was kind of a first pass. It was definitely much more about general areas. And then in 2013, my colleague Grant King led the process and used a lot of data to help refine the boundaries. It also introduced a lot more robust civic engagement to make sure that these PDAs and PPAs were matching each community's and the region's priorities. And then what are we really doing differently this time? Not much. It's basically kind of the same process, but a lot has changed in 10 years. And especially with the South Coast Rail coming along, we want to make sure that all of our communities are thinking about it and are prepared. So we hope to update boundaries based on new data. We hope to introduce a lot more modern civic engagement through online interactive maps and also accompanying surveys, and then also provide a bit more recommendations and specifics on kind of design and development explorations of key sites. So what are the benefits of these things? Why are we spending kind of 2 years of work doing this? So PDA designations help communities coordinate local planning and also win competitive grants. In this example for North Attleboro, after the PDA designation kind of close to their downtown, they acquired funding to update their zoning. Then they had a $1.3 million MassWorks grant through the expedited 43D process for roads and water and sewer to make the site development ready. And the end result is 193 units located downtown. What are the benefits of PPAs? So like the PDAs, it helps communities coordinate a lot of local conservation efforts and also win competitive grants to acquire land for conservation. So in Norden, after the PPA process, it helped them kind of get a leg up on their open space and rec plan. It helped them get a $575,000 land grant for conservation acquisitions, and the end result is 150 acres that are permanently protected. So in Dighton, there are 7 existing PDAs, 13 PPAs, and 2 combined areas. So these combined areas are areas that are that could be great areas for growth, but also there might be some kind of sensitive natural or historic resources on there. So it's kind of like both a PDA and a PPA.
I just want to see if I can. Yeah, no, that link's not active.
We do have an interactive map where you can look at
What
the
up?
PDAs and PPAs. I think because it's downloaded as a PDF. It's
Yeah,
not.
honestly, I'm gonna pull it up actually because it's actually really helpful. Just give me 1 second because like it really shows, in my opinion, what has been recognized through our economic development planning efforts as well. And so like we remain in sync, which is refreshing, but it also shows, I think, the opportunities that we continue to have. So if you just bear with me 1 moment.
If you go to like serped.org/priority-areas.
Oh, I think we just like wrote down the
Yeah,
it wasn't too long.
Yeah, serped.org/priority-areas. There's a link to the interactive map.
Thank you. Interactive map. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So while he's doing that, you have a kickoff from March to May 23 of 23?
This is the next slide. We'll explain the timeline.
Oh, okay.
No
Sure.
worries.
Oh, I'm actually getting the geography here, right? So if,
I think there's also a little search thing that you can like jump directly to the Dighton.
where, right?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Oh, here we go. All right. So, and right here, like you can actually like see, like in the mid to, like in the center left area, like is North Dayton, like with right here this purple area being, the mill at 620 Spring Street, the Princess House, and yeah, like the priority sites that we've actually advancing now in the trying to advance in the economic development plan. This is 138. So yeah, like if you want to talk about these areas.
Yeah,
as well, let me know.
definitely. So really, the best way to think about this is now we're not trying to reinvent the work that's been going on with the economic development plan. It's really taking the insights from that plan and just kind of memorializing it into this regional plan. So it's kind of like flowing up in many ways. And it's not regulatory and not zoning. So it's up to each community what they want to do with their PDA or PPA designations. But the benefit is really when you're applying for state grants, you can say, hey, this area is a PDA or this area is a PPA, and that just helps kind of give it that boost saying, hey, this is of regional significance.
Okay.
And this map, like we said, is available on our website for you to scroll through and look through different parcels as well. I don't know if you want to go back to the slides.
Yeah, like, and I just want to like mention one other thing. So 10 years ago, the Dayton portion of the Route 44 corridor was also identified as a target area as well. Like, and that is something 10 years later we're working really to advance as well. So, and yeah, like to me, like it reinforces how much of a pulse Serpent in its planning efforts really has on Dayton, and I think that's really a credit to you guys. So thank you.
And so, yeah, as you mentioned, Chairman, we are doing this project will kind of work over the course of 2 years. We're starting off with these kickoff meetings, meeting with administrative bodies so that later on the line, you're not like, well, what are you doing? We kind of really want to make sure you're looped into the process so you know what's happening. And then our second phase is doing these local workshops with planners and relevant stakeholders. So the planning board or the conservation commission, any folks who might have a stake in identifying and helping us identify these areas. So this looks like maybe a half-day working session coming into Dayton and working with all of these folks that you guys think would be relevant in helping us identify these areas. Then we'll take that knowledge that we learned in the second meeting for the third meeting, and we'll present the updated PDAs and PPAs to you all, just to kind of give a last pass and say, this is okay, or this is not okay, or we might be missing some other places. And then our last phase will go into next year to do 2 regional workshops to identify the important PDAs across, PDAs and PPAs across the region. And again, make sure that we're not missing anything from the community as well. So this is, again, to Philip's point, the big kind of civic engagement push. We don't want to let people, because we know people own farmland and things like that. So we want to make sure that they're also involved in these processes. So again, as we mentioned, that's the point of these initial kickoff meetings, to present to you all, the Board of Selectmen. We already spoke with Mike too about this, to just kind of make sure that we're not missing anything and to hear your concerns as we go and start into these technical processes. This is all, like Philip said, coming to you and asking if we can plan with your town. And again, this ties in a lot to the economic development plan that we're also working with you guys on, especially from the PDA perspective. So this is important that you guys are obviously aware of it and that we're doing this work that can help in a lot of other aspects of town planning as well. And that's kind of it.
Yeah, and we're more than happy to answer any questions or hear kind of initial thoughts about it.
Crystal, I know you were writing away.
In your work, have you had any meetings with the Healy administration and their vision for this area? I know Governor Healy spent a great deal of time in Fall River, and the impact of road construction, buildings, and the MBTA stations are going to have a huge impact not only in Fall River or Somerset, but it appears with Dayton as well. I understand that growth is coming to this area. has the state shared their vision, their planners shared their vision with Serpent? So
So-
that you're both all on the same page.
Yeah, we are working closely with the South Coast Rail team as part of this, and that's where the funding is coming from for this project, as well as I believe some from DLTA. And part of that process is meeting with the EOEA and EOHCD. So kind of their economic and housing department and also their environment department. And we're working to set kind of those working sessions up. So hopefully by the time we are starting those kind of phase 2 working sessions, I can give you much more answers to exactly like what that vision is on the state level. And that is something we are also kind of working with, kind of that transition, because they might change the structure of those departments.
See, one of the things that started with the Baker administration and is continuing with the Healy administration is the desire to establish regional support, whether it be for water, sewer in particular. And those discussions have already started happening down this way with the potential of regional agreements, some involving Fall River, some plans not. And obviously, there's a political side to that. Has Serpent been a part of those discussions?
I would say not yet.
Not yet?
Yeah. I don't know if you have more insight to that, but
So is the question kind of specifically what like resources is the state going to potentially commit to kind of support this growth?
That's important, or what direction are the members of the delegation, whether it be the executive branch or the legislative branch, what role do they want to see the communities go? And there are ways to influence that, both politically and financially. And obviously, the financial piece is very important to many of the communities in this area. Berkeley, Dayton, Somerset, Swansea in particular. You know, Fall River gets a great deal of money because it's a very large city. We are struggling in the South District of Dayton with water issues. You know, there have been many plans bandied out there. What help is the state going to give? What help can Serpent give? Our water district is a little different than many of the communities you work with. We have a legislative private water district. Are you able to work with groups such as that are not part of the municipal government, but service the community?
I think in terms of like specific investments, that's a little bit outside of the scope of kind of this planning process, but I think it's definitely a really important question of kind of how we can make sure that, you know, from this planning that the appropriate infrastructure can actually support anything that can happen. And again, I do want to reiterate, like, just because something's designated as a PDA does not mean anything will necessarily like happen. And that's up to each kind of community. And hopefully through the PDA designations, that can be a compelling case for additional investments. But so basically I don't have all the answers, but I think it's really, really great insight, and that's, you know, why we're coming here.
No, and I like the idea that we're going to have future meetings. Mr. Mullen, would it be a good idea to get the water district involved, especially where you have that regional grant that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, when we kick off this project and do those local sessions, I think absolutely the water district involved as well. Like as Philip mentioned too, things at the state level are evolving almost on the daily right now. The governor has actually proposed a dedicated secretariat level office of housing, and that hasn't actually been actually staffed up yet. So like I assume that once that happens, things are even going to evolve and change and Oh yeah, like and we're so in every community is going to so really need to adapt very quickly because this is where the focus is. It's why we started last like I think Jim and Karen last year with actually we're looking at our open space efforts, like in trying to dovetail in how different type of housing and conservation subdivisions where appropriate could be utilized. It's why through like a one-stop process and the grant application, the grant process we're going through between now and the first part of June, like we're going to actually we need to apply for a zoning assessment, but also together and separately as well seek to update our housing production plan as well. So because if these are gonna be the things that are evolving and coming down the pike, I think we as a town want to have the appropriate plans in place. So like when they do happen, we're not just reacting.
Right.
So that we're able to say, okay, so this is something we've been preparing for. It's something we've been anticipating. And here are the plans that we're building around that. So, like I think the timing of all of this, in short, really is happening at the perfect time, if there is a perfect time.
Sure.
It's very much a plan, less a mandate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that it, Mr. Hull?
Thank you.
Mrs. Mello?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay. The grants that are out there, did North Attleboro get a grant for their community that was involved?
Yes.
You got MassWorks,
Or
right?
that was a MassWorks grant.
MassWorks, okay. And was that a 40B?
No, it was through 43D. It's expedited. I believe it's through 43D. Basically, it's identified. Oh, this is a really important like economic development site, and it just kind of helped expedite the process a bit in terms of permitting. And that, I believe, was one of the conditions of getting that MassWorks grant. But it did kind of fit into their vision for what this site
Right.
was going to be.
Okay.
Because, I don't think 193 units located downtown is appropriate for every single community.
No, absolutely not. No, I don't want to become that big. And are you going to be working with the Dayton Industrial Committee?
Not yet, but we were recommended by Lizette, I know, is working on the Dayton Economic Development Plan to meet with them as well.
Okay, great. I have no further questions, unless you guys do.
No. I'm
Okay.
glad you touched upon Lizette, because I wasn't sure.
Yes.
how-
Very much
I'm
your
on that-
colleague.
I'm on that committee, and I know we've been working with Lizette, so I didn't know if you were coordinating with her.
Yeah, I definitely asked to make sure if we were talking to all the relevant people.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of in the
Yeah.
back end of the Dayton Economic Development Plan, so I have a pulse on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're very busy,
yeah.
Yes.
so, which is a good thing, for us anyway. Well, thank you very much for your time. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
Yeah.
you very
We'll see you
much.
again.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Announcements are next, which are quite extensive. So,
Yes.
Nicole, whenever you're ready.
I'd like to note that I've noticed they've been getting longer since I came aboard. I don't know what I did to offend anyone, but I apologize. So the Town of Dayton Food Bank distribution will be held next on May 18th, 2023, located at Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue. This is in the lower level. Bulky item curbside pickup is scheduled for Monday, 5/22/23 through Friday, 5/26. It's 23, it says 22 on here. This event will not be going back in time. Tags may be purchased at the Board of Health office. This is 1111 Somerset Ave. Contact the Board of Health to order your tags at 774-872-0943. A separate tag is required for each item to be disposed. Bulky items scheduled is the same schedule as trash pickup, and items must be out no later than 7 a.m. There have been changes to this, so I encourage residents to reach out to the Board of Health. The Dayton Historical Society is holding a plant sale on Saturday, May 20th, 2023. This is from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Winslow Davis Museum, 1217 William Street. Stop by and get your plants for your gardens. This event is rain or shine. The 2023 Memorial Day ceremony will be held at the Veterans Memorial Park on Monday, May 29th at 10 a.m. The ceremony begins at the pavilion located behind Old Town Hall at 1111 Somerset Ave and will end at the Veterans Memorial Park. Please join us to honor all those that have served our country. The Dayton Historical Society presents the 6th Annual Dayton Strawberry Festival to be held on June 10th, 2023 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Lions Pavilion, Dayton Town Grounds, 1111 Somerset Avenue. There will be pony rides, balloon animals, live music, craft vendors, and strawberry shortcake. The Town of Dayton plans to fill a vacant member position on the Board of Health. The Board of Health is a 3-member board appointed by the Board of Selectmen that is required by the state and local laws and regulations to provide policy guidance, direction to the Board of Health office staff, and application enforcement action as needed related to the protection of the public and environmental health. All applicants are required to submit a completed Town of Dayton employment application along with a resume and cover letter by email to lkerwin@dayton-mass.gov. Applications will also be accepted by mail or hand-delivered to the office of the Board of Selectmen at 979 Somerset Avenue, Mass. 02715. Full description of the position can be found on the Town of Dayton website at dayton-mass.gov. Applications will be accepted until 4:30 on May 26, 2023. We also have some board and committee vacancies. I don't have the vacancies in front of me.
We used to get a list, but we don't have it this week.
I thought there was one in the thing. Oh, thank you.
There were 3 vacancies. Oh, sorry.
Ceremony, how can I say it?
Cemetery?
Yes, Commission 1, Historical Commission 1, and Open Space Committee 4.
Great. Can you repeat that for me?
No. I motion no.
Thank you very much. And at this point, we have public input. Is anybody interested in public input? You're invited if you like. Okay.
Mr. Smith?
I do believe we have some folks on Zoom.
Oh, hi, guys. Anybody have public input?
Mr. Smith?
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Good evening.
I have I had a very little bit of public input. Now I have quite a bit.
Sure.
So first off, kind of a couple just extended announcements for Selectman Mello. One, Happy Nurses Week to her, and thank you for your work you do for the town.
Thank you, Kevin.
And then 2, just something to note that's coming up that's kind of a big deal in town is that the Water District's election is May 15th, from 12 to 7 at 192 William Street at the Water District office. I just wanted to note that for everybody. There's been a lot of talk about it throughout town. And then, if I may, I'd just like to make a couple comments. One being about Superintendent Rooney's presentation. I'm excited to see this happen, and I'm glad that Chairman Karen echoed the fact that, you know, we're always talking about the kids being in trailers, and I feel like now's the time to start exploring this, because it seems like the trailers have always been an excuse to not explore, you know, other projects, and it's good to see that the school, and I applaud the school committee and Superintendent Rooney for finally exploring a plan to at least see what we can do on that front. The other thing I just wanted to add quick, as far as the Serpent presentation goes, I know you guys did mention involving DDIC. I also would ask that you consider including myself as a representative from the Open Space Committee. One of my concerns with that presentation, and I'll review some of the information that they put out there, is priority protected areas. The Open Space Committee in the past did an excellent job of highlighting priority protected areas throughout the town of Dayton. So I'd like to review that and kind of compare it to what they have highlighted as well, because I feel personally that there's a couple areas in town that were considered priority protected that now have some building going on them, and I'm not sure how close it is, or if that area was actually considered priority protected or by who. So I want to do a little digging, just so we can make sure that, you know, everybody has a little bit of say in that project.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
I do have two things.
Yeah.
One, Mr. Smith, in regards to the Open Space Committee, it's my understanding that that committee has had a problem with a quorum for quite some time. And I just want to assure you that I don't believe it's on this agenda, but we plan on addressing that very shortly. And one of the possibilities is there is a representative of open space who is the Board of Selectmen liaison to the committee. And if we were, I don't know if we can do it this meeting because I don't see it on the agenda, but if we were to put it on the agenda for the next meeting to change that from a non-voting member to a member, open space would have a quorum and they could all come to the table in this discussion, or they could appoint one of its members as a representative to this upgrade of the zoning bylaw.
Yeah, that'd be great, and I mean, we'd appreciate some help, increasing our membership. We've actually, over the past 3 months or so, we actually did have 2 separate applicants who submitted their, application, to the selectman's office, and then once we reached out to kind of follow up, with them to make sure that they were interested, neither applicant had replied after that, so it's kind of a little bit of an interesting situation we have going on. But yeah, if there's anything that we can do to keep that going, I know prior to losing our quorum, we did have one meeting with Serpide to review their residential design bylaws with us. I know that's still a work in progress with them, so it's like I'd hope to keep active so that when that's, because I think that was supposed to be towards the end of May, beginning of June, they were going to have some more information for us, which myself and Dan Higgins are still active members. We certainly can meet with them to review any information. We just wouldn't be able to vote to make any decisions.
Well, Mr. Mullen, would it
Yes,
be
sir.
possible to put that on the agenda for the next meeting so that we can get a quorum?
It's
And
actually on the agenda for this meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
it is? I'm sorry, I
and-
don't,
In L.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
So yeah, I did see that. I think you guys had it on there as appointing Board of Selectmen
Right.
representative. The last I knew, I believe Chairman Karen was our
Yes.
liaison.
That is correct.
Correct.
That is correct. So, okay, we'll address that. No, that'll be it.
That's
Thank
it? Okay. Nicole, do you have anything?
No.
Thank you, sir. We
Thank you very
appreciate your
much.
comments. Is there any other public input?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, sir.
The Dayton Library Building Committee, town officials will host an open house session to preserve the overview of the library building funding request. I think we missed this. The open
Right,
house is
I was gonna
scheduled
mention that.
Saturday, 13th.
Yep, as part of the announcements.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rain on your parade.
No, it didn't get mentioned.
Okay.
Stole my thunder when I was gonna update the library building committee, but that's okay.
All right, now we'll do it again. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to read it out?
Oh, I don't have the thing, but,
It's on the
That-
first page.
It's
I
page
don't
1
have
at the
any
bottom, but I can read it. Under announcements, the Dayton Library Building Committee and town officials will host an open house/information session to present an overview of the library building funding request. This open house is scheduled for Saturday, May 13th, 2023, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the library's proposed new location on Dayton Smith Hall, 2007 Main Street. Thank you, Dave. That's it for public input. So we'll move on to the town administrator's report.
First, I promise that we're not trying to set Selectman Mello up with the announcements, so I apologize.
Thank you.
But I just actually have two quick things. One of the things, some of the days, especially lately, as we prepare for annual town meeting, like in the other things we've been working on, some days it's like a little more difficult than others to find really late. And things that are really worthwhile. And I just want to mention that so early this afternoon, Selectman Mello and I, we had the opportunity to meet with the Girl Scouts from Troop 70811, and it was a really it was a really great meeting. So even though Selectman Mello think I talked a lot, we really it was a great group of girls who really had a genuine interest in what we do at Town Hall, what happens here at Old Town Hall. When we met with them in my office, I asked them what types of things they were interested or have concerns or issues about in their government, and the first thing they actually mentioned was that the porta potty at the School Lane Field was full. So I did reach out immediately, actually during the meeting, to Chairman Smith in Parks and Rec, and I asked him to get on that immediately. So I appreciate it, Chairman Smith, for that. But then we came over here and we talked about the meetings that happened. And the girls, they love the gavel, and then they actually had the opportunity to actually adjourn the meeting.
Oh, cool.
So they can adjourn the meeting with the gavel. But it was one of the things, reaching out, engaging with our residents and making sure all of our residents still a really understanding of what we do in the process. It's just exciting, and so I want to thank them.
That's so sweet.
And for their interest. And then the only other thing I have is we're preparing, as I mentioned, for the annual town meeting. At the next meeting on the 24th, we will have and be able to present to residents a PowerPoint presentation. So in all the articles, all 27 articles that will be before the annual town meeting on June 5th.
Great.
So things are actively still in line and on schedule with all of that planning. And I think, so it's been a labor of love from your board, from the Board of Selectmen, from Karen and Leanne, our town accountant's office, and we're firing in all cylinders as we keep planning forward. So
Great. It's a busy time of year,
it is,
and
but
a lot of exciting things happening.
yes, agreed. So thank you. That's all I have.
You're welcome. For Selectmen's report, we start off with Nicole Mello, the clerk, an update on the Commission on Disabilities.
So the Commission on Disability met last week. They interviewed 4 new applicants, which you'll see later on the agenda. They're requesting for us to appoint. One thing that Mr. Gale asked me to mention was maybe a month ago or so, he did put out a survey that he was looking for different town employees to fill out in regards to transportation. Nobody did fill it out. On their behalf, though, it was a very lengthy survey. He said it took him about an hour to complete. I did ask that I think it was through
Serpent, yes.
that he bring back to them that if they would like these type of things to be completed, to make them more time sensitive. We're not going to get people to complete an hour long. I looked over it and I was like, not today. It was very in depth. So if he could bring that to them, and maybe they could take that constructive criticism to play, that would be good. Other than that, I don't have anything to report from them. The library building committee, like we said, the only thing I had to report is that we are going to have that open house on Saturday, and that residents do have what I think is a really exciting opportunity to come early and have their picture taken in front of the library, that potentially to be on the town report, and learn more about the library. They've worked hard on that. There's one other, I didn't know if I could mention the Agricultural Commission. It's not on here, but I wasn't sure if they were going to meet.
Okay.
They didn't have a quorum, but they did discuss the livestock recommendations that they then tonight were able to bring to the Board of Health, and they approved those. So those will be coming down the line.
Great, thank
That's
you.
all I have.
Sure. Mr. Hull?
Last evening, the Dayton Rehoboth Regional School District met. It was an abbreviated meeting because Rehoboth had their town meeting. The three items that the DR school committee were advocating for were passed at town meeting, as Superintendent Rooney explained, and that is huge for Dayton. Many people don't understand that we have an agreement with Rehoboth with the K-8 that cuts in Rehoboth out of sense of equity, program cuts would affect us as far as curriculum and instruction. So the fact that they supported the school committee recommendation and Superintendent Rooney's recommendation does affect Dayton. We signed into an agreement to work with the people of Rehoboth, and the leadership council that is formed, the partnership that has been established with the leadership teams of Rehoboth and Dayton. Bill Rooney made that happen, and that's a very positive achievement for Dayton and Rehoboth compared to what's happened in the past. And it's a step forward, and
Sure.
that's good for all the children and
Absolutely.
all people in both communities. At the meeting, Donna Burdos of Dayton was voted onto the District Policy Subcommittee. H&L Bloom was again awarded the transportation contract for the Dayton Rehoboth Regional School District for the 23-24 school year. And the Dayton PTO donated $1,049 to Dayton Middle School for the purchase of agenda books for all of their children, which was a savings to the district. In regards to the Water District, as Mr. Smith mentioned, their annual election will be May 15th from noon to 7 p.m., and voting will take place at the Dayton Water District office on Williams Street. The next meeting of the Dayton Water District is this Thursday at 6 p.m., tomorrow evening. And the annual Water District meeting, where they have two warrant items to be voted on, will be May 25th, 6:30 p.m., Dayton Middle School. That is it in regards to the two reports I have. But, Mr. Mullen, this evening I received a request for Mr. Ferry at the lower end of Hart Street and Pleasant Street, if they could cut the brush that's growing up. And that has been a complaint that I received last year from another citizen. And it was taken care of last year. It's just it grows back. And if they could trim it back so the visibility would improve.
I'll follow up with Mr. Ferry, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just on the Dayton Water voting, anybody can vote, you don't have to be from the district.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, you have to be from the
From the
Dayton
district,
Water
okay.
District. That's correct.
And just the water district that is involved, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. Not
so-
Dayton, not people who have wells.
right.
People that receive a water bill from the Dayton Water District.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
And that is a legislative created body. We've had much discussion on social media. The officials, the town of Dayton, Board of Selectmen, Mr. Mullen, they do not dissolve the water district. That can only come from the Massachusetts legislature that created the district back in the 1950s.
Okay, great,
Thank you.
thank you. Under old business, review, discuss, act, the junk dealer's license for Joseph Rosado at 180 Cobb's Lane, Dayton, Mass. He is not here this evening, which is okay, but we have two letters to read. I'm sorry, one letter to read and one to talk about his conditions. The first letter I'll read is dated May 10th of 2023, and it's regarding the 180 Cobb's Lane. And this is to the Honorable Selectmen. I have reviewed the applicable laws regarding the installation and existence of barbed wire fencing in residential applications. Except as indicated below in Mass General Laws, Section 6, there is nothing prohibiting such installation, so long as it is installed completely on a person's property without projecting outward of the property line and without encroaching on an adjacent property. Section 6, as provided below, prohibits installations on fencing that runs along a public way. And I read this because it was a question the day we went to visit by a neighbor whether the barbed wire was allowed. It does not appear that the barbed wire installed on the fence at 180 Cobb's Lane is in violation of any applicable law or regulation. And it's signed by James Aguirre, the building commissioner. The Town of Dayton is looking to issue a junk dealer's license to Mr. Fazzato. As you guys are well aware, we visited the property, we had an open meeting, and some restrictions were discussed before we issued this license. And I'm going to read what those conditions were, and we can all talk about the conditions again. The following conditions were discussed at the recent site visit to the property of Joseph Fazzato, 180 Cobb's Lane, Dayton, Mass., and related to an application for a junk dealer's license application made by Mr. Fazzato to the Board of Selectmen. We have conditions that we would put on this application if he does indeed want to follow through. The conditions were limits on premises hours of operation between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, excluding weekends, state, and federal holidays. The junk sales license, as well as hours of conditions in operation, will be clearly and conspicuously posted on the premises. No collection, acceptance, and/or cutting of any fuel oil tanks. Junk dealer's license is non-transferable. Any discussion, guys?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Sure.
to approve the junk dealer's license of Joseph Fazzato, 180 Cobb's Lane, Dayton, as presented this evening with the specific limited conditions as stated.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. How would you like to vote?
Aye?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. So, Mr. Fazzato, you have your junk dealer's license with those conditions. Moving on to new business. Review, discuss, act on annual town meeting warrant, final approval and signature.
Yes, so we do have, the board does have, before it, for its final consideration, the proposed annual town meeting warrant for June 5th, 2023. As you know, we finalized with the FinCom all the recommendations, and there were a few housekeeping items that since our last meeting with the FinCom, I believe last Thursday, it's hard to keep track of what day it is anymore, but there was some language changes that were reviewed and discussed, and so the warrant is all in order. I want to thank Ms. Brady and Town Accountant Serena Amaral, are really working tirelessly to get the warrant in order, to reconcile all the proposed budget appropriations, and yeah, I think in my 2 years that I've been here and worked for the town, and we've been doing this, this budget process is by far the most streamlined, healthy, transparent, and I just want to thank everyone who's been involved. Thank you, Karen, and yeah, so it's before the board for its final approval and signature tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is probably the first time we were ever done as quickly as we were, or as early as we were.
It's May 10th. I mean, that's really well done. So.
Right. Everybody worked very hard to get that accomplished. Like I said, the board, like you said, the Finance Committee did an excellent job as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to say that your zero-based budgeting also made a big
Yes.
difference.
It worked
I agree
out
completely.
I'm glad we had it.
I agree wholeheartedly. That's.
So is there a motion on the floor?
I do have a question.
Sure.
In regards to Article 4. I don't see any recommendations from the Board of Selectmen.
Article 4, hold on.
FinCom Committee recommends, but I don't see Board of Selectmen recommendations on article. Many of the other articles, I see Board of Selectmen recommends. Did we not vote?
What I, well, we can include that tab. Oh, yeah, like, we can, like, add that column in.
Okay, thank you.
So we need a motion on the floor, please?
I will make a motion to place or to approve, the warrant as amended this evening to include a Board of Selectmen recommendation for Article 4.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Mr. Hull?
Aye.
Mrs. Mello?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Review, discuss, act, fiscal year 22 audit and management letter.
Yeah, so this is something, these are the least glamorous things in government that people like me get really excited about.
Sure.
So I apologize in advance for being excited about an audit and management letter. The audit financial statements in the management letter before you tonight, they don't actually have to be approved, they need to be accepted. One of the, so as I mentioned in the memo, when we talked about our audited financial statements, so our financial statements reflect the town's fairly static and stable fiscal position from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 22, especially when we account for last year's E&D turn back from the school district. But one of the things I'm most proud about is for the last multiple years, we have had management letter comments, in our management letters that have occurred over multiple fiscal years. And so in the financial management world, when those happen, that is something that's frowned upon, quite simply. And one of the goals that I've had since I started here 2 years ago, so it's really working to clean those up, so I can really to get those comments out of our management letter. We did get a management letter for FY 22, but it's a much more limited management letter. And specifically organizational issues that were flagged last year, with us having a whole new financial team. Those organizational processes were flagged. We also, in prior fiscal years, we've had issues with timely submissions for Chapter 90 reimbursements. We've had performance bonds and conservation funds that have always lingered on our books, just because we've had at least 3 to 4 years with issues in trying to reconcile the police detail fund, which was a really big issue. We were very lax in how we addressed our capital asset inventory. We had issues with accounts receivable processes, and these weren't substantial deficiencies, which actually, when you have a substantial deficiency, then that term in financial management world means that these issues are actually affecting or have the potential to impact your fiscal position. So we didn't have that. So I want to be clear, because it's something major, but we did have these financial management issues that were occurring in year to year, had not been addressed. And one of the things, like a key comment in last year's management letter was the need to build a dedicated centralized human resources function based on the world around us now, based on the fact that we're a $27 million budget, and so we're a $27 million operation. And so in 2023, so like it really doesn't make any sense for a $27 million operation to have a fragmented, so and sometimes parochial driven human resources processes.
Right.
And so like that's one of the prouder things, like, and we did that together in the last year with the board support. Yeah, like we are, so yeah, Miss Brady's role. So we created a dedicated human resources coordinator position. So like, I mean, like, and we addressed that issue in less than a year. So like, I mean, like it just, so like, as I mentioned earlier, like it just really shows that we're really firing all cylinders as we're building a budget that's sustainable. So yeah, like we're addressing issues like these, and so yeah, like I think in terms of our financial management, so in our HR management as well, like we're really building a really good structure that's been a team effort.
Sure, definitely. And collectively, these things for the last several years make a bad impression for the town of Dayton. And you've done an outstanding job correcting all of those issues. And probably the human resources, one of the big deficiencies that I know from just talking to employees at the town hall, we're looking forward to having. So thank you
No,
very
I mean,
much.
like, and again, like it's a team effort. Like, I mean, like
Absolutely.
on the police, so like on the detail reconciliation, like Christina Franca, like from the treasurer's office, treasurer collector's office was amazing. So yeah, like, so as well as the new chief of police and Colleen Bork.
Yep.
So yeah, we really have a good team, and we have a team environment, because so I can't do things alone. The chief of police can't do things alone. The town accountant can as well, but we do. So yeah, we have an amazing synergy when we work together, and yeah, it's just. So I'm just really proud of that, and
Everybody has really stepped up,
Yeah,
and it
agreed.
makes for a great operation here at Town Hall. And Karen, thank you as well. Go ahead, Mr. Hull.
Mr. Mullen, you have a right to be excited. This is like report card time. Roselli, Clark and Associates give all of you an A+. A lot of people in this town don't see the Fridays and the late hours that Mike Mullen and Karen Brady, Serena Amaral, Paul Reynolds, and Stephanie Schechter put in the extra hours on Fridays, which is supposed to be a day off, working to put together outstanding achievement.
Thank you.
And the thanks goes out to yourself, but also to all the members of your financial team. Thank you. Ms. Brady, thank you. Ms. Schechter, thank you. Paul Reynolds, Serena Amaral, thank you for all your service to the people of Dayton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Mello, do you have any comments?
Can't follow that.
No, it's tough to. Lenny does a great job. Are we going to vote on this?
You just need to vote to accept
Accept the
the
letter?
financial reports in the management letter.
Okay, so review act to discuss, like I had said, the FY22 audit and management letter. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the financial management letter presented to us by Roselli, Clark and Associates.
I'll
Is there a
second that.
Any discussion? And Mr. Hall, how do you
Aye.
vote?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you, guys. Review, discuss, and act, request to appoint Thomas Ferry, Highway Superintendent, to the Joint Transportation Planning Group, JTPG. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to appoint Thomas Ferry, Highway Superintendent, to the Joint Transportation Planning Group.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye.
Mr.
Review, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
I was just
You
gonna make the
read it?
motion.
Wanna read one?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mike Mullen, Town Administrator, as an alternate to the Joint Transportation Planning Group.
I'll second that.
I'll make the motion. You want to second that?
Oh, I just did.
Oh, you made I'm sorry. And you made the motion? You seconded it?
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Sorry for the confusion.
No problem.
Review, discuss, act, request to appoint Jeff Cavallo, Planning Board Chairman, as the designee to the Southern Regional Planning and Economic Development District. Southeastern Regional, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jeff Cavallo, Planning Board Chairman, as the designee to the Southeast Regional Planning and Economic Development District.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Mr. Hull?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you. Request to appoint David Neely as a resident at-large member of the Solid Waste Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to appoint David Neely as a resident at-large member of the Solid Waste Committee.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, before we address items G, H, and I would like to read a statement into the record.
Sure.
When the positions of the Commission on Disability became vacant, it had been brought to my attention that the board had only 3 members. The bylaw stated that the Commission on Disability could have a minimum of 5 members and a maximum of 9 members. When the position was posted, the Commission on Disability had 4 applicants, which they had a choice. They could keep 2 and reject 2, or they could expand their board, as the bylaw allowed, to 4. I advocated with the Commission on Disability, and Mr. Gale is present here this evening, for 4-member to be appointed, especially due to the fact that we have a difficult time getting people to apply, and that we had 4 applicants and the opportunity to appoint all 4. The second reason, and this group that has applied, is a cross-section of this community, politically especially. And with that being said, I saw that as an opportunity of bringing both sides together, working together for the better of the community. So, just want to go on the record as saying that
Okay.
before we vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My concern, well, I guess we'll review, discuss, and act, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Review, discuss, act, request to appoint Christopher Andrade to the Commission on Disability.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gale is present this evening, and we did not
Read his
receive a correspondence, did,
Yes, we did. I'll read it, I'm sorry. To the Dayton Board of Selectmen, from Jonathan Gale, Chairperson, Dayton Commission on Disability. Subject, request of confirmation for new commission on disability volunteer applicants. This is dated May 5th of 2023. Dear members of the Dayton Board of Selectmen, on May 4th, 2023, the Dayton Commission on Disability held our monthly meeting and had the pleasure of interviewing 4 applicants for open at-large volunteer positions to serve as the members of the Dayton Commission on Disability. Christopher Andrade, Timothy Tulin, Dana Rose, and Leah Quinn all presented themselves as qualified caring residents of our Dayton community. And after hearing from each of them, we, as members of the Dayton Commission on Disability, have concluded that they all are well qualified to serve on the commission and support our town's continuing efforts to improve the lives of our disabled residents. Therefore, the members of the Dayton Commission on Disability have unanimously voted to confirm all 4 of the above-named residents to serve on the commission. We therefore ask that you, the members of the Board of Selectmen, vote in the affirmative and accept this letter as our request asking to confirm these caring residents as members to the Dayton Commission on Disability. Submitted for your review, Jonathan Gale, Chairperson of the Dayton Commission on Disability. Sorry for not reading that before we started.
I don't see it in my packet.
That's
Thank you very
okay.
much for doing that.
We're going to review, discuss, and act, request to appoint Christopher Andrade to the Commission on Disability. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Christopher Andrade to the Commission on Disability.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I know Chris Andrade, and I don't mind that he's not here this evening to ask questions of, so I will take a vote.
Aye.
Mrs. Mello, and Peter Karen is an aye. Request to appoint Leah Quinn to the Commission on Disability. Review, discuss, act.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to appoint Leah Quinn to the Commission on Disability.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I don't know Leah Quinn, and I just assume wait before, because she's not here to ask questions of. Any other discussion? All take a vote. Mr. Hull?
Aye.
Mrs. Mello?
Your comment, were you looking for tabling this?
I would like to table it.
Then can I make a motion to table it?
We have to finish with your motion first, right?
Then I'm a no.
Okay, and Mr. Cameron is a no.
Fails for a without a second.
Right. And now you can make a motion to table.
I would like to motion to table the request to appoint Leah Quinn to the Commission on Disability until she can attend and we can all have questions.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Cameron is an aye. Request to appoint Dana Rose to the Commission on Disability. My concern is the same thing. I don't know Dana Rose, and I would not like to appoint unless we had questions, unless there was an opportunity to ask the questions.
I would motion to, what was my last motion? To table this, request to appoint Dana Rose to the Commission on Disability until she can attend a meeting and have a discussion.
I will second that motion.
All those in favor? Mrs. Mello?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Request to appoint Timothy Toolin to the Commission on Disability. I know Timothy Toolin, and I would have no concerns about appointing him. I don't need to have him here to ask questions.
I'll make a motion to appoint Timothy Toolin to the Commission on Disability.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion? Is there a vote on the floor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Review, discuss, act, contract for DPW services, chlorinated rubber traffic line painting.
Yes, so, so this is one of the, awards in, the proposed contracts that, membership in the Southeastern Regional Services Group actually procures for us. And I would recommend that the board approve the awarding of contract to, the lowest responsible and responsive bidders, like as proposed in, the proposed awards, like for chlorinated rubber traffic line painting.
And this is for the entire town?
Yes.
Wow, okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion to enter into the contract for Department of Public Works Services for chlorinated rubber traffic line painting.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Mr. Hull?
Aye.
Mrs. Mello?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye.
Yeah, one thing like I just want to like clarify, yes, like this, like the procurement covers the whole town, but with the procurement covering the whole town, the highway superintendent and the highway department, they have an ability, we don't, so yeah, we're not obligated to spending the $38,075. We can
Okay.
treat this like a menu.
Yep.
So like when we need those services, we don't need to go out to bid on our own. So yeah, like we've already, so actually, our membership in the Eastern Regional Service Group has already gone out to bid for us.
Okay.
So like if and when we need to do this, we already have it procured.
Okay.
So yeah, this work, like is something that I know the highway superintendent, he tries to have done every fall. But just as an example, so yeah, like I mean, just so as an example, we might, like actually hypothetically fully utilize, like all the proposed or part of the proposed 4-inch white or yellow lines, but we can, so yeah, like we might not actually do something else. We can treat it like a menu here.
Okay. And does this include public buildings that the town owns, like the town hall and Old Town Hall, striping the parking lots too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is actually something we just actually talked about. Had a meeting this morning with the highway superintendent and the building commissioner, and yeah, like especially on this campus.
Yep.
A lot of our line striping, so in our parking striping has faded.
Yes.
And yeah, we did discuss this as a priority.
Okay.
That is something that will probably, as we prepare for, and yeah, like as we update our capital plan, that endeavor will probably be something we need to treat and address through our capital plan.
Okay.
But it's something that is absolutely on our radar
All right.
right now.
And I'm assuming it doesn't include the elementary school campus?
No,
Okay.
no.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Who determines what gets done, yourself or Mr. Ferry?
Highway superintendent.
Highway superintendent.
Yes. Yep.
Now, I noticed we are, the Board of Selectmen are the signatories of this.
Yes, like as he authorized our contract executors, yes.
So the fact we took the vote to execute this contract, we're good.
Yes, like and I, as a town's chief procurement officer, like my obligation to procure these services, so Tom has the ability to complete them, so as he sees and deems fit, based on funding in his budget, it is all done.
The fact that you're the procurement officer, does that mean we don't have to take a vote to authorize you to procure?
Yeah, procuring is something I do on a regular basis, but when it comes time to entering into a contract, that is only something the board has the ability to do.
Oh, okay. All right. No, thank you.
So the 8-foot school direction arrows.
Yep.
Are just on Center Street and 138?
For school, so there, yeah, but that's not like actually listed in the bid price, so the.
Okay.
So yes, so this contract doesn't actually cover that because there's no dollar value included in the procurement on the
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry, yep, on the right-hand side.
Yep.
Okay. Review, discuss, act, appointment of Board of Selectmen member to Open Space Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Peter Karen as a voting member to the voting member from the Board of Selectmen to the Open Space Committee.
We have,
Second that.
okay, we have a second. Any discussion?
Aye?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye.
So now they have a quorum.
They do,
Finally.
congratulations, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
thank you. Review, discuss, act, facilities request, 6th Annual Strawberry Festival.
We have an application from I believe from the Historical Society on, just like they did last year, to have the 16th annual Strawberry Festival on the grounds of Town Hall. We do have all the requisite backup sign-offs, like in liability insurances, and you will note that the Historical Society has asked, as is customary, for the fees to be waived.
So those are two separate motions, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor to allow the request form?
I will make a motion to allow the Dayton Historical Society to use the gazebo area around the back of hall for vendors, and the use of the surrounding areas for their strawberry shortcake festival.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Mo-
Mr. Chair? Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
I
Waive the
will make a
fees.
motion to waive the fees to the Dayton Historical Society for the 6th Annual Strawberry Festival.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Review, discuss, act, facilities request for the Taunton Vietnam Vets Car Show.
We have the same type of request, Mr. Chairman, and members of the boards, for the Taunton area Vietnam vets to have their annual car shows. As outlined, we do have the proof of insurance in all documentation as well in the packet. The Taunton area vets and Mr. Rosario didn't they didn't actually check off that they were asking for the fee to be waived, but actually waiving the fee is something that we have also extended to them
Okay,
in the past as well, so I would recommend that. And so this would be one additional area where 2 votes would be needed.
okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the Taunton Area Vietnam Association's request to use the area behind Town Hall for their car show.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to waive the fees to the Taunton Area Vietnam Association for their car show.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I just wanted to note that the dates are June 24th, July 22nd, and August 26th. And just so, Mr. Mullen, I don't see any rain dates, so are these the specific dates?
That is my understanding, Selectman Hull.
With that being said, I'll amend my motion to include those dates.
Okay. Is there a second
Yes,
for the
I
amendment?
second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you. Approval of the warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the warrants for May 4th, 2023. 44A-23, $114,924.75. Warrant Article 44B-23, $132,073.27.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the warrants for May 11th, 2023. Item 45A-23, $119,649.95. Item 45B-23, $467,958.38. Item 45C-23, $2,338,077.05.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you. Acknowledgements. Donation of Helen Lane map to the town of Dayton from Louise A. Freeman of Rainham, Mass. This is from Patricia Gales to Mike Mullen, CC to Jim Aguirre. It was also to Leanne Kerwin. Good afternoon. The town of Dayton has received a donation of a watercolor historical map drawn by Helen Lane. Helen Lane was the town's first historian. Louise A. Freeman of Rainham, Mass. donated the map to Dayton. It was originally owned by Barbara O'Brien, who left it to Mrs. Friedman. I ask that the Board of Selectmen accept this donation to determine a place in Old Town Hall, or Old Town Hall for display. The map is framed, but the frame needs work. The map should be framed for preservation. This will on the Historical Commission's May 11th agenda. This will be on the Historical Commission's May 11th agenda. And thank you from Pat Gales, Chairman of the Dayton Historical Commission.
Discussion? Do we have a determined place to place this map?
Not as of yet, but we will work with Pat Gales to determine a mutually agreeable and visible place.
I know there's probably no room at Town Hall because of two reasons. One, they're talking about renovating the foyer.
Yes.
And two, I know the veterans had asked about moving the Medal of Honor at the police station that's on display there to Town Hall. So we're kind of limited to space there. So we'll probably be here at the old Town Hall.
Or the other possibility, the new library.
Possibility, yeah.
Possibility.
I mean, as I look, there is wall space here,
Yeah.
but I'm just wondering.
See, Lenny, this is why you make the big bucks.
I'm just wondering if we should table this simply to get Ms. Gale's input.
Okay.
I mean, we can make a decision, but I'd feel
Yeah.
better if Pat was involved in this discussion.
Yeah, I think I would recommend that the town accept a donated map.
Okay.
And so with the understanding that the decision tonight is not where to place it, it's just
Just
whether to accept
accepting the
it.
map.
Yes.
With that being said, I will make a motion to accept a watercolor historical map drawn by Helen Lane to the town of Dayton.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. You gonna say something, Lynn?
Well, I was just wondering if someone could reach out to Ms. Gale
Absolutely.
at their meeting, since they're going to discuss it on their May 11th agenda, if they might discuss or give us a recommendation.
I'm the liaison for the historical committee,
So you could bring it up.
and it was mentioned last night at the meeting, and I will bring it up to them about a placement.
Where they would like to see.
Sure. B, donations of 6 filing cabinets from Paul Brigham, Esquire of Framingham, Mass. On behalf of the below-listed departments, please accept the following donation from Paul Brigham, Esquire, from 40 Spring Street, Suite 201, from Framingham, Mass. 6 5-drawer filing cabinets received in the following manner: 1 Council of Aging, 1 Conservation Commission, 2 Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 miscellaneous to be determined. And it's signed by Carrie J. Easter Day, Office Manager from the Planning Board and ZBA. Is there a motion on the floor?
I just have a question.
Sure.
To be determined, who will determine?
Based on
Planning board?
office interest, there is an inquiry out, based on the donation to any offices who actually need additional filing cabinets and filing space. So,
And there are 2.
Yes.
So if there are more than 2 requests, who will decide who gets?
let's just say departments have not been knocking down the doors, so I don't expect that.
Okay. Okay.
Motion on the floor?
Well, I just,
Sure.
one group I don't see here, and, Ms. Mello, the Board of Health, I've always heard them complaining that they have enough file cabinets, but just haven't put everything in them.
I'm not sure. I know that there was a lot of paper on all the tabletops and now it's not, so it went somewhere.
Okay,
I'm guessing it's filed now.
okay. No. With that being said, I will make a motion to accept the donation from Paul Brigham Esquire, 40 Speen Street, Suite 201, Framingham, Mass, to the town of Dayton.
I'll second that.
The first and second on the floor, any discussion?
I just had one question. Who is this person and why are they giving us filing cabinets?
Yeah, so one of our town employees works part-time off hours for Attorney Brigham.
Oh, okay.
And I understand Attorney Brigham is actually closing down his office and has offered them to the town through our employee working there on Fridays.
Okay.
And
That was very
and it's a
kind.
very generous gesture, so.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you. Correspondence, letter from Helder Ferrera, resignation from the Dayton Highway Department. Dear Mr., this is to Mr. Thomas Ferry from the Highway Superintendent, Town of Dayton Highway Department, 2011 County Street, Dayton, Mass. Dear Mr. Ferry, please accept this letter of my formal notice of resignation from the Town of Dayton Highway Department, effective Friday, May 12th, 2023. I appreciate all the opportunities in the job department has offered me. Please let me know how I can help during this transition. I am happy to assist in wrapping up my responsibilities and training my replacement or other team members. Thank you very much for the opportunity to work at the Highway Department. It has been a pleasure working with you. And it's signed Helder M. Ferrera.
How long was he an employee of the town?
Just over 2 years.
Is there a motion on the floor
I
to
will make,
accept this letter?
I will make a motion to accept the resignation from the Dayton Highway Department of Helder from Ferrera with sincere thanks and appreciation.
Would I be just able to offer a friendly amendment to that motion? Still exactly what Selectman Hull had mentioned, but like add on and to repost the vacant position?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a second on the floor?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Minutes, approval of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting minutes of April 26, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of April 26, 2023.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen is an aye. We are now going to enter an executive session on the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A10, to discuss trade secrets or confidential proprietary information regarding the activities by a governmental body as energy supplier, municipal aggregator, or energy cooperative in an open session will adversely affect conducting business relative to other entities making, selling, or distributing energy. Electrical service agreement. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. Executive session minutes, approval of the Board of Selectmen's executive session minutes, meeting minutes of April 26, 2023.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Nicole.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. We will not be returning from executive session, so this will conclude our Selectmen's meeting for May 10th.